Our person who's been coming to these meetings on and off for the last few months. She is no longer with the company. So you're either gonna be seeing me or Marshall Jordan. He's right here. He's gonna hand his card to you guys as well. We are looking for a new government liaison person. And don't know when that's gonna happen or where that's gonna happen, but the meetings we attend will either be attended by me or Marshall Rowan Walker. If you ever have a question about what's happening on the developer side, you got my number, give me a call. You're gonna have his number as well. Do you have any questions for the developer?
There was a parcel that was recently sent down to Houston for approval.
Yep, and it's been approved.
What's the status?
It's been approved. I talked to Donnie Reed before I came here. I think it's gonna go back to the attorney and it should show up on one of y'all's next meetings to be officially annexed.
Okay, and what are your plans, timing wise?
Plans. So that's it.
Thank
As
you.
soon as I know something, you'll know. But those parcels that are being annexed, I don't have any activity on those right now. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danny.
Thank you.
Okay, we consider an act on requests for adjustments to or relief from specific charges imposed by the district.
Nothing.
Okay. The consent agenda, are there any items that any director would like removed for further discussion?
Yes, I have some comments.
Hold on then, but which one, on which items?
Item 4.
Okay.
Well, actually, 4 through 7, because the page numbers need to be adjusted.
Okay,
Over on the right.
and that leaves us at 8. Is there a motion to approve the number 8 on the consent
So
agenda?
moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, nay. Consent agenda is approved. Number 4, review and act on the minutes of the June 2023 Board of Directors meeting. Paul?
Okay, so on page 1 of the minutes, under item 1, the meeting time was 3 p.m. And on page 3, item 11, the top of page 3, there's an item that talks about the Bear Branch low flow vault lid. And it reads, the final total cost was under 34,000, and I would like to add with a budget of 75,000. Otherwise, number doesn't mean much. Item 14. It says Garver received 1 bid. And after it says Texas Pride Utilities. And I would like to add in the amount of $1,238,280. Period. The MUD 67 portion was 181,000 even. And I would like to add another sentence under that paragraph also. Engineer estimates were 1,656,570 in total and 183,250 for MUD 67. That's so that people reading the record have a frame of reference. There was only 1 bid. And so what does that mean?
Mhm.
You know, was it over, under, where are we? So that's the purpose of it. And that's all I have.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes and with noted adjustments?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye.
All right.
Opposed, nay. Number 5, review and act on the financial reports and disbursements of June 2023. Paul?
Let me be clear. I'm sorry. There were just page number adjustments off to the right, which I've given to Shelley. Like consent agenda item 4 should be pages 1 to 5. The next one should be page 6 to 16. And number 6 should be 17 to 19 and 7 should be 20. And that's all I want to do there.
Okay. Then do we have a motion to approve with corrected page numbers?
So moved.
Yeah, second.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Number 6, review and act on the quarterly investment reports. Again, page numbers. Is there a motion to approve with those correction?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And number 7, same thing, page 20 correction. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Regular agenda, receive and act on the staff information regarding the upcoming MCAD Board of Directors election for the term of office, January 1st, 2024 through December of 25.
This is the actual voting. Arthur Bridge office, the only one on the ballot. Which is good. You have a resolution there? We just need to vote this time.
Okay. Do we have a motion to cast our votes for Arthur?
So moved.
And a second? Discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Arthur got him. Number 10, the San Jack report. Chris?
Round robin. But I might have. So that is this item that I passed out prior to the meeting. This item replaces the one that's in your packet. What this is this is the drop contingency plan triggers. So we also showed this similar ones last year, okay? At the trustees meeting, one of the trustees guys, if we give an update on the drop contingency stages, how close we are into going basically to water restrictions. So that's what this is. This is what we use to track where we are and how close we are to reaching a trigger. So on the far right, under the misspelling, those are the different trigger points, stage 1 through 4, okay? You can see like stage 1, Woodland stays in stage 1 year round because of the alternating water schedule, right? So the first stage you would actually go into would be stage 2, and it says 70% of total production or 80% from one plant. So we come over here to the left side of the table, and on the far right, you're going to see where it says MGD, million gallons per day, as of 7/12/23. So in that column is going to be the well production for that day, going to be the surface water production for that day, then the total production for that day. Okay? What we do is we say water plant 1, the wells on 7/12 produce 2.13 million gallons a day. We take that number, then we go to the left and say, okay, does that reach 70%? The 6.04 million gallons a day. If it doesn't, we're good. But how close are we? Right? So if we're at 4 or 5 MGD, we'll probably start talking to Eric and saying, hey, the numbers are increasing. We may have to do some restrictions in the future. But when the wells are producing 2 million gallons, we're not. So then we go down, we look at surface water. We just look at it to see how much and check for the 50/50 because surface water is not restricted by what the wells produce. Surface water is restricted by what the lake level at Lake Conroe. Lake Conroe drops down 3 or 4 foot. Then they go into stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, so on and so forth. So, I'm giving you a lot of information, trying to teach you how to decipher this a little bit, but basically we look at the as of date that compared to the percentages to the left and see which one we're sitting in. If we're not in any of them, we just see if we're getting close to it. If we're getting close to it, we talk there. We did highlight 6 different areas in yellow. Those are the main numbers that we pay attention to. That is the total production from each of the plants. Water plant 3 towards the little bit above the middle at 42%. That is the highest production water plant we have in the Woodlands. It's been that way for a number of years. Water plant 3 is in Alden Bridge. It's actually on Alden Bridge. And so a lot of residential, that one has a constant 3,000 gallons per minute, whereas the other ones are using nighttime 1,000, 1,500 or so. That one 24/7 is at least 3,000, if not closer to 5. So a lot of production. A lot of information, but all in all, systems in good standing at this point in time. One of the biggest reasons is because you're getting surface water. Half your demand comes from surface water. So if you take that 42%, half of that is roughly surface water. If you didn't have surface water, it'd be 80, 85%. Then you'd definitely be in stage 2, if not stage 3. So it's a lot of information, but do you have any questions on that?
Any questions? Thanks,
Is it
Bill.
ever likely that the Woodlands, the area served by Woodlands water would ever be impacted?
It could be. So the last time I recall a water restrictions been in place was in 2011 during the big drought. Pre-surface water.
Okay.
And so,
The other component is the lake level.
right,
So if the lake level gets so low, then you won't get supplemented with that to offset it. Presumably that'd be at the same time that the wells are struggling,
right,
potentially.
But as I recall, in 2011, the lake level was real low.
7, 8 foot low.
Yeah.
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 But But there is a chance too, that outside of just drought conditions, if there's a major mechanical failure and GRP shuts down and for whatever reason, like during the freeze, we have a lot of production, 35 million gallons a day. You could have issued a drought contingency stage trigger in the middle of the freeze because you have so much production being sent. So droughts are the biggest, but there's other things that could come.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Turn it over to Connie and then over to me.
Okay.
So, good afternoon, gentlemen. Here just to give a quick update on the AC pipeline. We are working within SJRE right now to pull together kind of a plan and a proposal with a scope of work of what we're looking to do for this asbestos concrete pipeline replacement that involves condition assessment. So right now, everything has been kind of revolving around this concept of the 50 years for AC pipeline and some other risk for the prioritization and that 10-year plan. We're going to bring to the Board of Trustees in August a proposal. We're gathering information from consultants, and that's really where we are today. So we're going to take that to the Board of Trustees, and Eric, I think depending on the way it's put on y'all's agenda for the trustee meeting, it could be for consideration and potentially approval, but more than likely consideration, then something to come back to y'all in August. That's my update.
Okay.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks. Dan?
So a couple Bear Branch items. First one is the Bear Branch Dam rehabilitation. Last month I mentioned that we had a request for qualifications out to procure an engineering firm. We have received statements of qualifications and we are currently under evaluation of those. So over the next few months, the schedule is really to get an engineering firm on board, go through negotiations of scope, and continue coordination with the Corps of Engineers on the funding side. So plan to get this project kicked off a little bit later this year, but everything is going well so far with core coordination, and good responses from the engineering community that we're evaluating. The Bear Branch low flow valve outlet, that was a leftover item from last month, so no update there. Bear Branch monitoring report, typically we have a one-page kind of email summary of last month's just inspections and any operations at Bear Branch drainage system. That did not make it into your packet, but there was only a couple items. We did multiple routine inspections, no new graffiti. There was a little bit of fence damage that was repaired. Really, the only significant item was during June, we had a significant storm event that knocked down a number of trees along the drainage easement. So we were working with our on-call contractor to get that.
Is that completed now or?
I'm not 100% sure. I know Brett was sitting outside, but that was the status at, I think, the June 26th when they were still working on that.
Okay.
So it may be cleaned up, but I know they were assessing the damage in the trees.
Okay. Okay. Any questions for Dan?
And I will say that unless y'all have questions on what we presented last month for the draft Bear Branch system budget, you have nothing additional on that.
Okay.
It'll come next month for approval.
Okay. Fair enough. Thank you all. 11, consider an act. Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
So, let's see, on page 30, I don't know who to address this to, but it's the projects and funding. There's an item about midway down called wastewater treatment plant number 2, Headworks Rehab.
Yes, sir.
The contracts that are awarded for both the design and construction are they're well over the budget amounts. Can you explain about that, please?
Trying to remember off the top of my head what the major items were that did push that over budget. Did only receive one proposal with ITX, which is the contractor. We did review that thoroughly and got input from our design consultant with Liquidity. We felt it was a fair proposal. Trying to remember off the top of my head what the major items were that came above budget.
I think it's more buildup during the inspection. So one thing is, it's a coating contractor, right, that's coming in to do it. And so we don't have a, what they call a NACE certified inspector. So that goes under the engineering, but we're actually contracting for the NACE certified inspector to come in. Just to make sure the coating's applied correctly, it's gonna last and everything else. Part of the original study that we did, because there's two phases to design usually. There's a preliminary engineering, to make sure our assumptions are correct. Then there's an engineering phase where you do the final design. In the preliminary engineering, it was actually more degradation of the concrete than we originally saw, because they go in there and I don't know, do they do the gun thing? I don't know what's called, but
There's a number of surface procedures that they're undertaking.
right, because when they did the inspection, it was basically as worse than we thought it was gonna be. So. Also, when we bid this, or when we put the budget in here, it was a couple years ago, before the inflation and everything else. So,
Yeah, and what I'm trying to think is what the engineer's estimate was. So the budget line, that's coming out of what was in budgeted 10-year project plan or another fund. Not necessarily what the engineer's estimate was, which those budgets are done well in advance of when we actually get proposals. So, you know, again, just with escalation we've seen in materials and supply chain, you know, that has pushed stuff up. And we've dealt with this actually a number of times on the projects we procured for construction recently, and just the budgets that were put together a year plus ago, just due to timing and all that, we've seen a lot more escalation than I think that was built into those original budgets. So we're trying the best we can to work with the contractor if we need to enter into value engineering phases. We've had to do that on a few projects.
So jumping up a few lines on the town center water line renewal, the design contract looks like it's about $250,000 over. And your budget for the construction is 4.9 million. Are we going to experience the same thing there?
So the 4.9 million is what was originally budgeted in the R&R. You know, we have pulled that out, where it would be now like bond fund, and the costs that we currently have are around 13 million.
Right.
And that's
So,
the
yeah.
13 million is equivalent to the 4.9. Wow.
yeah.
Okay,
I would also add in the land acquisition piece too, and the
Yeah.
additional survey. on
so the
design
original 4.9 that was in the budget was from an engineering study that was done, I believe, in the 2018, 2019 timeframe.
Yeah.
Couple of things changed. So the study did not necessarily take into account how many auger bores that were needed to be done. So when we actually got into design, there was a lot of different and varying construction methods that are necessary for town centers to reduce the amount of disturbance where it's not just open cut. And then there's inflation, so price escalation of goods, materials, and just labor has come into play on that. And so that's really one of the major issues. Additionally, I think Six Pines, there was another study that was done regarding pressure. And so the line along Six Pines, that's part of the town center package, needed to be upsized from 12 to 16, and that wasn't originally considered in that 4.9. So all of that kind of combined for an escalation in that price.
Well, I'd like to request that the verbal analysis that you've just thrown out here, go back and verify the actual and give a written report on why you get that kind of increase.
What I will say is we can, I think, provide that. We also, just so everybody is aware, that same report where we were running numbers from a couple of years ago, we updated that for this year's budget, and we ran updated numbers for any of those water line projects that we were running estimates on. So,
Right, so just one thing to keep in mind is when you're looking at the budget column here, that's the current budget as of, well, before FY '24. So the project plan that we went through back in April and all the discussions we've had, AC lines, town center is an AC line, by the way. All those discussions, all the updated numbers we talked about with the new project plan, the bond financing, come September 1st, these budgets will be updated to include those numbers. Right now, they're still proposed because nobody's voted on the budget just yet. You want to explain why the engineering's over the eastbound?
Yes, sure can. So the engineering side of things for the meets and bounds, originally, most of the pipelines that were installed by the developer at the time, they were offset like a foot off of the right of way, put in an easement. Some of those lines were built where they were supposed to be and some of them were not. And so as we went through and did the evaluation and the study and did the design, we found that there were pipelines that were not within easements. And so we need to put them in easements. As well as there's places of it where it needed to be relocated because we couldn't replace it back where it was. And so I believe there's 46 or 47 easements that are needed. So the meets and bounds to do that for those individual properties costs money. And that's where that overage came from.
I mean, there are 46 errors made on the installation,
Um,
and placing the pipes in the wrong place.
No, I mean, it's more of, there's places where like we need some temporary construction easements along the frontage because it's 1 foot off the right of way. And so we need space to work. So you're gonna need easements in those areas from a temporary construction perspective. So we need to do
That's a
that.
lot of very small parcels too.
Right.
Primarily in the west right of way, I think maybe 10 or so of those 48, 49 are with private landowners. But most of those individual beach balance easements are in.
And that would be something that we would acquire from Howard Hughes, and they've worked with us great over many years to help us get those easements turned around very quickly.
A few more questions on this
Go ahead.
report.
Yeah.
Page 35. Due to the large influx of money put from Quadvest, $12 million. What's the proposed action as far as this balance for the operating fund balance? What's the plan?
At this point, there is no plan that's set in stone. There's a lot of options that are out there. Obviously, that's a lot of money. Some of that does include paying off some of the smaller bonds. GRP isn't one large bond, it's a series of smaller bonds. So we had discussions prior to Jace leaving, with Jace leaving, now Ed, obviously acting general manager. He's picking that back up and we're gonna go forward talking with various options, but bond refinancing, paying off some bonds, potential refunds to a certain degree, and then making sure we're, of course, fiscally responsible and we have enough funds in the account. Because GRP's gone a number of years with no money in the R&R emergency reserve. So we don't want to give all the money away and then next year be hurting like we have been for the last 3 or 4 years.
Is there any requirement or is there any prudence that should be taken as far as setting that money aside in an escrow account? So that should the court rule in Quadvest's favor, that we have to come up and repay that money?
If that, we can discuss that and see if that's a consideration that needs to be taken. We'll ask the attorneys.
So the good news is, while you're discerning this problem, you're earning $50,000 a month in interest.
We
So-
did check, it's 4.5% to 5%.
So that's a good problem to have.
It is.
Almost done.
Continue.
Page 40 and 41. Page 40 is the 9 months operating data for GRP through May 31st. And there's past due number at the bottom of the page on that financial there of 19,961,000. What percentage of that or what amount of that is for Conroe?
Off the top of my head, 95%. And that is, there's 2 entities, there's City of Conroe and then City of Magnolia, and haven't seen the report lately, but Conroe a lot bigger than Magnolia, so.
So with the upcoming 24 budget at 0 increase in GRP, there still will be a deficit but it just won't be an increasing deficit.
That is the hope. Now, the other thing that is going to play in our favor is last year, Quadvest and Woodland Oaks both were not paying anything at all. Part of the
Okay.
agreement is they paid us not only the $12 million, but they're also paying going forward.
Okay.
So there's less hurt from Conroe not paying.
So on the reverse side of the comment I made about you earning interest, Conroe's earning interest
This is true.
by holding that money back. So I hope all of those issues are taken into consideration when negotiating with those folks.
They were also taken into consideration when talking to Quadvest.
And finally, page 41, the fault line project. The final sentence there says that the consultant provided a draft report in early June of 23, which is currently being reviewed. What's the status?
The report's going to be presented to the GRP Review Committee on Monday at 11:30.
Is it good news or bad news?
It's news. Would you like the high-level summary?
If whatever you're comfortable in letting us know, since you haven't presented it.
It's not a problem. So we did 3 or 4 borings down about 300 foot. Well, consultant did, they evaluated it, and their response back is that there is no fault line in that area. Now, keep in mind, the borings were done right around the GRP water line. We didn't go to the high school parking lot. We didn't go on the north side of Research Forest. We did just where our line is, because honestly, that's all we're concerned about. So in that specific area, that 20 by 20 box or whatever, they say there's no fault there.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Number 11. Consider an act on purchasing cameras for the Bear Branch Dam area and modifying the fiscal year 24 budget.
The carryover from last month is not needed.
No action taken.
If you, the other was, that's the cameras.
Yeah.
I think all of your other partners have agreed to join in on that. It's like $300 a camera,
It does not affect the 20.
but it doesn't affect the budget.
Okay. But do we need to
I don't think it's moving
approve?
forward,
Okay.
and there's no budget change.
So we're just going to pay it and move on. Okay. Consider an act on the fiscal year 2024 budget for the Sanjak Woodlands Division.
So the budget that was presented in May, and I do have a few copies here if anybody'd like to see a copy, but nothing has changed in the Woodlands budget since it was presented in May. It is a 2% wholesale water rate increase and a 2% wholesale wastewater rate increase as proposed. The approval of the budget does not deal with the AC water lines at all. There's no funding in it. If you approve it, it doesn't mean we're moving forward with the AC water lines. Doesn't mean we're moving forward with the wastewater plant. The AC lines, the wastewater plant, all the bond funding is a separate agreement that will be talked about later on. So this is strictly the O&M budget, as well as the standard $6 million for the R&R with project. Those projects are generally stuff that has less than a 20-25 year lifespan, pumps, motors, valves, stuff that you don't want to bond finance for 25, 30 years.
Okay. Any discussion?
So I make sure that I'm looking at the right piece of paper. Water rates proposed, the wholesale water rate being proposed is $2.78 versus $2.73, which is the current rate. And wastewater is $5.65 versus $5.53.
You are correct.
Okay. And the GRP rate remains unchanged, blended rate at $3.20.
Correct.
Are the groundwater rates and surface water rates? Well, I guess by definition, they're remaining the same as well.
Correct. So the GRP rates are the $2.99 and the $3.41.
Yes.
$2.99 for groundwater, $3.41 for surface water. The blended fee is the fee that y'all charge your customers, or that the Woodlands Division charges y'all.
And we just pass it through. We don't upcharge it.
Correct.
But your other partners who are not on the 50/50 have a lower rate, correct?
Oh, the blended fee?
Yes.
Yes, their blended fee would be lower because groundwater, they're using more groundwater than they are surface water. Now, it gets kind of complicated, so bear with me. The River Authority charges every participant $2.99 per 1,000 gallons of groundwater and $3.41 for every 1,000 gallons of surface water. How they recuperate those funds, that's up to them. They don't have to do a 65-35 blended fee. They could charge $3.41. Conroe does $3.41 plus like 10 or 15%. So there may be, if somebody does a blended fee, like if you change your blend to 65-35, that $3.20 would change. Because you're doing 65% of the $2.99 and 35% of the $3.41. So then it drops down a few pennies. But that's what they charge their customers. But they pay us, everybody pays $2.99 and $3.41 across the board.
Okay, so enacting on this budget, those are the rates that are the result of all the details. Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion? If not, do we have a motion to approve?
So move. I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay. 13, receive update regarding the status of the Bear Branch, Panther Branch Research Forest Drive Drainage Improvements Project and authorize any action in connection therewith.
So no action this month on that item, but page 45 in your packet is the one-page monthly summary. I do want to point out the schedule status and the billing invoicing status graphs. One with the schedule being 55% complete, but only 19% of the invoicing billing is being shown. That's largely part due to that, so a little bit over $400,000 in owner directed services. So that schedule is really portraying the base scope of services and the deliverables associated with that base scope. If there's owner directed services that are authorized, then, you know, that schedule might change, and obviously the billing invoicing will change. So we're putting them on there, but it is a little convoluted and confusing. So I wanted to help try to clarify that, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But in short, you know, we are progressing, the consultant's progressing with the modeling and the alternative analysis development. We got some upcoming meetings to start really digging into the alternative analysis. They are on schedule to meet the projected dates for the deliverables shown at the bottom of the page. So we just got no complaints at this point.
Okay.
I'd be happy to try to answer any questions if you have, or pass or follow up with you. But
Who from Woodlands Water is watching this?
We're on a monthly call just to get an update at this point, and that's been my understanding is what was just reported. They're going through the modeling right now. And I think they're on pace, and it was late August. They'll be down or I'll have more.
I've heard of now, that's fine.
So that's when we'll really know a lot more of the outcome.
Number 14, Katie.
Nice to see y'all again. Brian's on vacation, so I'm filling in. It's been a few months, so nice to be back. I walked in when y'all were discussing the annexation. I looked it up. The annexation has already been approved by the city. And y'all adopted the order adding land back in February. So I'll let Dan know that. I'm sure he does.
So there's nothing else we need to do.
But no, the annexation's already been, the city consented to it on February 7th, and then y'all adopted the order adding land on February 15th. So, yep, so that is done. I don't have anything for a monthly report this month. I wanted to let you know that next month you're going to see some items on the agenda related to the legislative session. So we our office put together a summary of the bills that passed and some of the significant ones that didn't pass. And it's about a 30-page long summary, so it's pretty long. But our two lobbyists who are in Austin, you know, it has a lot of details. It's very helpful. They put that together. It's on the Google Drive, and we'll have an item on the agenda next month to discuss it and answer any questions. So if you want to look at it in advance, you can. And then we'll have a few agenda items for actions we need to take coming out of the legislative session. So we'll be discussing your per diems, the notice to purchaser attached to your district information form, and the code of ethics.
Okay.
It's mainly administrative stuff.
Okay, good enough. Any questions for Katie? Thanks, Katie. Number 15, review and act on the resolution in support of Jace Houston.
Last month, there was a resolution passed out. It wasn't on all the agendas. And now it's on all the agendas for all the MUDs. And the MUDs are contemplating what to do. There's been 7 meetings so far. 2 of them are proceeding, 4 of them are deferring, and 1 of them said, no, I'm not gonna do it.
Okay, so those are deferring. What are they, why are they deferring?
Not comfortable with the current language, I'd say for the most part. A couple, not all the board members were present. They wanted to make sure the board member, the full board was there to look at it. What I offered to do is with the 2 months that have chosen to go forward, they wanted to do some, whether it's significant or not, but modifications to it. And I offered to share those modifications with some of the deferral boards to see if that changes their mind or if they want to continue.
For those that declined, why?
There's been question about what's the purpose? What does this solve? What does this prove? Who's it go to? Those types of things. I think the purpose was, basically the response was really in an effort to let the folks, the receivers of the letter or the resolution, know that the Woodlands is not very happy with how this went down. The idea would be that it would go to SGRA, Lone Star, and the legislators, and perhaps some other social media or media outlets is who the audience would be. So
Okay.
There was comments about, it's not really going to bring Jace back. What's the point? That type of conversation. Some of the modifications that have been suggested are suggesting that if the document's purpose is to show support for Jace, then that's one thing. But then it also has language in here about the lawsuit and some of the other things which really weren't Jace supporting, wasn't along the same lines of supporting Jace. It was kind of going into 2 different pieces. Those are just the comments that we've received.
Sounds to me like you've got 6 boards that are pushing it down the road.
Perhaps.
And when you say you have 2 that want to go forward, but they're making changes, that's deferring or changing.
Yeah.
I would agree with the last part of your comments there, that I thought when we asked the general manager to write up something, it was to support Jace Houston and the job that he had done. And, through San Jacinto River Authority.
Well, there's 2 different things. So I'll report on the one you're talking about is not what we're talking about. This is the resolution that was authored about 2 months ago by a director in MUD1, Bob Lilac, and that's what the resolution is. The trustees.
Oh, this is outside of that discussion.
Correct.
I guess I
I
wasn't aware of
going
that.
to update you on that piece in a minute, but
Okay.
that's 2 different things. That was a trustee directed letter that I would write and present to the SGRA board of directors, which I did so. And that was a letter of commendation, totally different than this.
Okay, so that's been
That's
accomplished.
been accomplished. That has been accomplished at the SGRA's last board meeting. I did that. I read it aloud to the board of directors for SGRA. But that's not this.
So it sounds to me that there's with a couple of boards that want to tweak the language of this resolution, that this is still kind of, we ought to just table it until the wording is finalized, and then we can decide if we want to support that resolution.
And I'm happy to share those changes once they come about, if you'd like.
Okay. Is that the consensus? So
That's fine,
we can
yeah.
table it. Okay, then let's do that and move on. Okay, Pete, general manager's report then.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon. Just a couple more items that I have. I've just mentioned the Jace letter, so that's done. The Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District has selected their new GM. A lady named Sarah Kuba, I believe is how it's pronounced, Kouba, formerly with the Habitat for Humanity and a couple other nonprofits. Is her work experience, it appears. So that should be starting soon, if not already. Wanted to point out a couple customer service accolades or nice comments from your customers on their interaction with our staff. I always like to hear those. I like to share those with you all when I see them. I did want to, as we started, I guess, a couple months ago, really wanted to start having a conversation with John to let John give you kind of some insight into what we're doing on public outreach. So with that, pass it to John for a minute.
Afternoon.
Hi, John.
Page 57 in your packet is our communication report for the month of July. And just want to touch on some highlights here. So we're just past midway of our 12-month communication strategic plan. So that puts us in water conservation focus, which is where we want to be for these summer months, these hot summer months, where people are putting so much of their water on their landscape. So we're making sure that folks are aware of all the different services and resources we have to help them conserve water. Rebates, Wise Guide program, weekly irrigation recommendations, and so on. We continue on with our other messaging fronts, but we just the height emphasis on water conservation right now. The next page, I have to note that on the website there, our traffic for June was significant. It's our third highest month ever. That makes our first 6 full months of 2023. Puts all those 6 months in our top 10 highest traffic months ever. So we're happy about that because that is one barometer of how our marketing is working overall. Because what we try to do with all of our marketing is push towards the website. Right, so we give people some information, something interesting, something useful, and then we lead them to more information, which is couched on our website. So good to see the traffic continue to be high there. The weekly irrigation recommendation and newsletter that goes out every Monday morning, 9 a.m. We folks water the correct amount for their lawn health for the week. If you're not tuned into that, I encourage you to do so. We put a lot more information in there in addition to that irrigation recommendation on a number of fronts. And then that content also feeds a lot of our social media. So that's a real good gauge of the type of information we're putting out. We also send out standalone emails as well on top of that. We had one go out this morning on our free sewer line TV inspection service that we offer. The following page, a few examples of our digital and print marketing that's out right now, again, with the water conservation focus. Our article for the month of July in the Woodlands Community Magazine touted our significant reduction in our water loss rate, owing primarily to the installation of our smart meters. On social media, we're adding another platform to our suite. We're in process of doing that. I haven't kicked it off yet, but that's going to be next February. Basically, it's just one more way for us to get in front of stories, right? To help control the narrative. We're not going to be responding to residents, comments, and so forth, but it's an agency account, much like the fire department, police department uses to put information out up front. Looking great on the communications consultant. So we've been working hand in hand with the River Authority on securing a consultant firm to assist with communication specifically around the infrastructure renewal initiative, the 10-year plan. So we hope, we assume things will continue according to schedule, and that firm will be in place sometime in early December, or excuse me, September. And you should know that we have been very much involved in that process. We're not involved in the final decision making, but we provided our input on those proposals. We're happy with the proposal that we received. I think we'll have an excellent firm to work with. Yeah, excited to do so. So again, hopefully that's in place sometime in September. And then finally, we are always working to gauge community input. What does our community know? What do they not know? What do they want to know? Questions that they have, what issues are they raising? But we have a variety of tools that we use to do that. I touched on a few here, as far as website traffic and engagement with our digital media and so forth. We did a community-wide survey last fall. We'll do another one to follow up on that, see how much progress we've made over the year. There will likely be other surveys coming. But to qualify that data, well, it's critical to qualify that data. And a major way we do that is interacting one-on-one or in small group settings with the community. And that's really something that directors can help us with. You're out there, you're spreading the word, you're carrying messages into the community, and you're hearing from the community. You're understanding what their questions are, what their concerns are. I really want to press on how much we want to gain from that. So if you could, if you come across something that you think is of value, please shoot me an email, give me a phone call, talk to Eric, and share that information. That's critical to hone our understanding of our community. So appreciate that.
Okay.
With that, any questions?
What was the motivation behind adding this new service that you sent out today?
Oh,
Wastewater.
the TV sewer line
Yeah.
service. Well, it's something that we offer that we think is an excellent customer support program that folks.
And we've always offered it, and now it's just being highlighted. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and Mike, I don't know if you want to speak to that, but how long have we had that service in place?
Since I've been here 19 years.
And it's been offered all that time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I paid to have it done.
Well, that's why we want to get the word out.
Still have the receipts.
Yeah, there's some inflated dollars too.
Okay, any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, John. Pete, you got anything else?
That is all I had on the GM's report.
Okay, I've got a question. I'll direct it to Mike, but Pete, if you've got something to add to it. There was a water break, I think over the weekend at 242 and Northway. Do we know what caused that break? I know it affected customers in 46, 47. I don't know if 67 customers were impacted or not.
It happened Thursday afternoon, I think it was.
Yeah.
And it was estuary line, but
Okay.
when they dug it up to take a look, there was actually, and I guess they cut it, it actually sprung back. So it looked like it was installed under pressure or with a bend kind of under pressure is what I understand.
So was it
Yeah.
pipe failure? Is that what it was or
Insulation failure.
installation? Okay.
And just as a little bit of information, anytime we find a leak, especially because this was towards the night, it was about 9 o'clock, we found all the valves. We go out, we turn off valves. And then we have to figure out, okay, with Woodlands Water, who's out of water? So we found out the residents were out of water. So us and Woodlands Water went out there and we found additional valves isolated. So everybody still had water, but the water was turned off. So in a case like that, we don't fix it that night, we fix it the next day. So that one.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, if not, we'll move on. Trustees report, Paul?
And just a comment on the trustee meeting summary on page 55. Where it said Pam Steiger, CEO, that should be CFO.
Typo.
Yeah, long discussion again about asbestos cement pipelines. And in order for that discussion to become productive, I think we need to have a template that everyone buys into. To spend week after month after month, meeting after meeting, talking at opposing points isn't getting us where we need to be, I don't believe. So I think that what I thought I heard someone say, Connie, maybe earlier, is that a template is going to be presented that will be used as a basis to go forward. And I think that's what we need to do instead of continually arguing about minutiae. It's not getting the job done.
That is the direction. Yes.
Any questions for Paul?
We're going to point out two other things. The trustees approved the new billing software, Vertex One. that was discussed previously, that was approved, and then the trustees also approved the 2024 WWA salary budget, which included essentially overall $150,000 reduction in budget from 2023. That was mainly due to the salaries of Jim and mine overlapping, as well as another position that due to the software change that we most likely will not refill. It's a vacant position, but we're going to try to keep that open. Thank you. Okay, so just the highlights.
Okay.
So I would like to follow up on the rate study for water. Is it just water or wastewater as well?
Both.
What's the status and when are we going to have an opportunity to review it?
It is very close. We've had several meetings over the last few weeks with the consultant, where the model is built over 600 spreadsheet pages for all 10 months. It's significant. But in the meantime, we're also finalizing the budget for WWA and the MUDs for next year as well. And so as we're refining that has to be kind of refined into this big rate study that has been created.
That's what I was trying to avoid.
It'll be next month. We'll be ready to present it.
Seems to me we need to agree on the rate study so that you can incorporate it into the budget. And if the goal is to keep all MUDs on the same billing schedules, that's going to take time to get approved, in my opinion.
We'll see. Be ready to present it in August.
That's the same time, same month you're presenting the budget. And so then your revenue projections are going to be based upon this new rate study?
We will have some recommendations on what to do with the rates based on the budget that's been presented, that will be presented. It'll make sense.
I think well, any way to get that rate study done sooner?
No, I would not without the budget data put into it. We have to do that. Otherwise, the rates don't so good. That's just the revenue side. We have to put all the expense side into it in order to make sure that the rates cover the expenses. So it's kind of have to do both at the same time as it comes together.
Tennessee could, okay, got it.
But we're close. We got a few tweaks that we're working through, and then, like I said, finalizing some of the budget items.
So have each of the MUDs got the same problem that MUD 67 does? i.e. The costs are approaching the revenues?
For sewer, actually, yes.
Sewer, no, okay. And
Yeah,
Water varies, sorry.
in general, there's kind of a general, and my understanding from Jim is a rate study to this magnitude has not been done maybe ever, a very, very long time. And so what the initial information that we're seeing is showing is that water is coming in high in terms of the revenue. We're over collecting and then under collecting on the sewer side. But keep in mind that you've got water rates that cover, water expenses. You have sewer that covers sewer expenses, but you also have storm expenses that are being covered theoretically under either one. And so we're the way we're looking at it is we're going to try to get those kind of honed back in to where they're not over or under collecting. And then we're going to identify how to cover the sewer, the storm sewer, and the admin fee, which is also covered by those expenses, as well as your M&O taxes as well. So you kind of have multiple components here.
is a concept of a stair step rate for water in particular still?
Yeah, I don't think we would change the philosophy on how the rates are stepped
Right.
necessarily. Yeah, that we're not really looking at making any wholesale changes in
Well, the
that.
first two steps at $1.70 and $2.80 means, we're putting $1.10 with each gallon, 1,000 gallons of water at the 1 to 3,000 level. And you're just barely at 278 next year is our wholesale cost. So at 280, you're break even basically. So clearly, and at the same time, you got to worry about, the low income people that are just barely able to live here in a retirement, a disabled situation. So, I get all that.
And even in that regard, there's the various districts have different dynamics,
Yep.
even in that discussion, I'm sure. 600 and.
That's why I prefaced
Yeah.
I prefaced my comments by saying, is the goal to keep all MUD's rates the same?
It is the goal to keep it as consistent as we can while still maintaining that the MUDs are obviously covering their costs and aren't running at deficits. And there's a couple MUDs that are more challenged than others in that regard, in covering their costs at the current rates, for sure. And there's a couple that are doing better. It'd be nice to keep them consistent, but I'm not sure that it's going to be 100% possible.
I won't schedule my vacation during that period.
Okay, any further discussion on that? If not, we'll move on. No reason to go into closed session. So no reason to reconvene. Any other matters to put on future agenda? If not, we stand adjourned. Thank you.